What Christ accomplished on the cross affects our life for eternity. When Jesus was on the cross, it says he was crucified at 9 a.m. and then he died at 3 p.m. He was there for 6 hours. During the last 3 hours, it was 3 hours of darkness. And during those last few minutes, Christ gives 4 statements that tells us what he was thinking, what he believed, and actually what happened biblically, theologically, and personally for us, so that since Easter, we can live for Christ the rest of our lives. Christ said, my God, why have you forsaken me?" Christ was forsaken on the cross during those 3 hours of darkness. He was actually bearing our sin. He was actually carrying our sin so that we could be forgiven forever. And then Christ said, "It's finished." Well, what was finished was he died for our sins on the cross. After the cross, the next 3 days, he was literally in paradise. In fact, he said to the thief on the cross earlier, "Today you'll be with me in paradise." Christ suffered for our sins on the cross so that we would never have to suffer for our sins again. He said, "It's finished." And when he said that, 3 or 4 things happened. Matthew's gospel says it this way in Matthew 27, around verse 50. He said, as soon as he said it's finished and he gave up his spirit, he said the earth shook, the rocks split, and then it said this, the graves were opened and people came out, they were resurrected. And then he said this, which is most important of all, the curtain in the temple was torn. The temple curtain was the way into the Holy of Holies. In the Old Testament, only the high priest could go into the Holy of Holies once a year with an offering for his sin and the sins of the people on the Day of Atonement. But now, once Christ died for our sins, the curtain was torn from top to bottom, showing that God opened up the Holy of Holies. Now we as Christians have access into God's presence. We don't have to go through a priest because Christ died for us, because he rose again for us, and Jesus said, "It's finished. My sin is finished. He's forgiven it. My life is finished. I can now live for Christ and have his life. Eternity's finished. I will now spend eternity with Christ because Jesus said it's finished. And as a result, we can be in fellowship with God for the rest of our lives."